And joining us now on the pod to talk all things ESPN, Bristol and beyond, Burke Magnus, ESPN's president of content. Burke, thanks for joining the SBJ Sports Media Pod.
Thanks very much, Austin. Thanks. Good to see you, Molly, as well. Glad to be here.
All right, Burke, I got to ask you. You're a member of Wingfoot. Were you texting Tiger Woods some tips on Tuesday night for his Jupiter TGL team? I mean, they were taking a shellacking there on your airwaves.
Yeah, no is the answer. He doesn't need any tips from me, but it was an incredible night just to see him in a competitive environment like that. I went to the first TGL event a week ago, and I really think they have something here, and which was the essence and the impetus rather for us to get involved in the first place. Last night was next level with Tiger out there, and
it looked like he was having a great time, like really enjoying himself.
Yeah, I think it's so different for these guys to be able to relax a little bit, let their hair down. I mean, obviously they're competing hard, but they're having fun. It's a window for the fans into who they are as people that is unique, and the tech is really pretty special. So high hopes for TGL long term.
And for those listening, just a reminder, we are recording on Wednesday, but let's get back to TGL. I had one more question on that, Burke. Any creative plans you're working with, with Mike McCarley that you can, something beyond using just the golfers, any, celebrities maybe that might be coming on in the future?
I know our team, and I'm sure Mike's team as well, are just really focused on getting the launch right. Coming out of week one, we had a ton of notes, for the production to try and continue to dial that in. I think unquestionably, given the appeal and the broad appeal to casual sports fans, not just avid golf fans, that TGL is going to have, there's all kinds of opportunities there, I think, to integrate different forms of competition. Think, match type competitions with athletes from other sports, celebrities. There's so many passionate golfers in all walks of life that I think that's a natural extension of this long term. We did have Serena on the telecast last night, which was kind of fun and interesting. I love that, we did tweak everybody out there by noting that she had more Grand Slams than they had majors combined. So, a lot of fun, lots of possibilities there.
I liked hearing Serena on the telecast. I hope we get more of her coming up.
By the way, I think that environment also lends an opportunity to have somebody like Serena, who's obviously not a golf expert, just sit up there and actually just comment as a fan, as a competitor, and in this case, as a team owner. So it was really unique. It was a lot of fun.
Burke, you guys have kept me busy this year already, but one of the biggest pieces of news coming out so far around ESPN is the end of Venue Sports. So that was that planned skinny bundle that alongside Fox and Warner Brothers Discovery. How much of that decision was related to possible future legal action from other distributors, and how much of it was related to Disney and ESPN's upcoming launch of Flagship?
Really, we were focused on two things. One, the launch of Flagship, and number two, the other products that are going to come out from distributors that would resemble a skinny sports bundle, right? In the time period where we were dealing with the legal case and the ultimate resolution of that, I think it became evident to us that there were going to be other ways to solve for that cohort of potential customers. And, we're really focused on our product now. We've done distribution deals that allow for these more skinny bundles that would include sports. So the goal remains the same. The mission remains the same, which is to reach sports fans anywhere, anytime, and now through any means, right? And that's really our focus now, is on our product primarily. We have a launch coming up and not too long. So we're really dialed in on that.
I say this every time, but I cannot wait to learn the name. One day you guys will tell me.
Yeah, one day they'll tell everybody.
Could we potentially see Fox Sports content on Flagship at launch?
I don't know. I saw that rumor or report recently. What we're doing is we're going to build what ultimately we believe will be the ultimate sports destination digital for sports fans. So I suppose, as a hypothetical, could other sports content be included in that over either at launch or over time from other entities? I suppose that's possible. I mean, we certainly could do it with regional content from leagues, or with things like MLB at Bat or NBA League Pass, that kind of thing. So, Yeah, I think anything's going to be possible. But really, what we want to do first and foremost is, and like I said, our focus is almost entirely on this at this point, is getting that product ready for launch and having all of the enhancements and bells and whistles, if you will, ready for our timing.
Burke, I want to look back quickly at the Sugar Bowl. A lot going on there with the delay and the tragedy that happened in New Orleans, then the move of that game broadcast to January 2nd. I spoke last week with Laura Rutledge about how she deftly handled the coverage on the air. But what was going on behind the scenes with ESPN as this was all unfolding?
It was a unique situation. And by the way, a week later, we had something similar in that we had the fires in Los Angeles relocate, our wild card game to Arizona. So in the span of 2 weeks, we had two major logistical challenges relative to New Orleans. Wholly different when we're dealing with a terrorist act, because there's a whole level that involves safety and security of not just our people, but also fans in general in the city of New Orleans. It was unprecedented. There were conversations happening, both with the college football playoff on the window for the game, and then there's just the simple, in quotations, logistics of moving our people and being in position to do something about 24 hours or so later that wasn't anticipated to be there. You know how our business works. Like, people have flights and hotel rooms. And by the way, fans had the same considerations to deal with as well. So everybody rallied, because it was a news event as well. We had to lend our people to platforms like ABC News. Laura did an unbelievable job, as you noted. I sent her a note afterwards because she appeared on everything from World News Tonight and Good Morning America to
ran the gamut everywhere. Yeah.
And the Pat McAfee show. I said, the versatility is unbelievable. And she really is a special talent. So I don't want to make it sound like we were the only ones that were presented with challenges. Local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, fans, just the CFP staff, the conferences, the teams, the competition, everything was disrupted. But everybody pulled together, and we ended up getting a really good football game just a day later.
I know there's a little bit of controversy regarding you guys not covering the anthem in New Orleans for the game. Can you speak about that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, actually. Let me just say this. There's a group of people in Bristol who just made an enormous mistake. It was a human error. It happens. I don't want to minimize it by any stretch. But as you noted, like, nothing was normal about that next day, including our programming lineup, where we normally would have had College Game Day and that crew leading into the game. It wasn't that. It was Sports Center, which is done out of Bristol instead of inside. I could give you a whole host of reasons why it was not the normal circumstance. But at the end of the day, that was just a horrible error that was made by a group of really well-intentioned people who feel terrible about it. I lost my father over the holiday break, and he was an Army veteran, and there was nothing more important to him than his military service. My parents took my sisters and I to West Point every single week. We had season tickets to Army football growing up. The notion that was somehow intentional, or we were trying to avoid acknowledging what was a horrific situation in New Orleans was really misplaced. It was just a mistake that we feel terrible about. And by the way, we should be held to account for, right? Like, we want to be as good as we can possibly be at all times. And even though it was not a normal situation, our traffic got fouled up, our timing got fouled up. We happened to be in commercial break when the anthem happened. It was just not good by any measuring stick, and not up to our standards. I think what you have seen since then in terms of the other CFP games are NFL games in Week 18 in the wild card. Like, we're not avoiding the anthem, quite the opposite. It's a special moment for all sports fans at big events, and you'll see the same treatment in the college football championship game coming up on Monday.
Well, my condolences on your loss, and I want to stick with the CFP for a little bit longer. It's the first year of that 12-team playoff. You had some great blue blood matchups there in the semifinals. Audience numbers a little lower with the games being moved off that New Year's holiday for the first time. How has this expanded format, though, been performing in your eyes, and what would be some tweaks that you might like the CFP and conference commissioners to maybe consider?
You noted it. It's a little bit of apples and oranges with the semifinals, which we understand. There is no substitute for New Year's Day in terms of audience aggregation. That's a big difference. And by the way, to this point, we've had 10 games in this year's format as opposed to 2 games in last year's format. Mm-hmm. Overall, we think the expansion has been an absolute home run from a couple of perspectives. One is, any concern that people might have had that it would have compromised the regular season, I think have been satisfied. In my opinion, it actually pulled meaningful games deeper into the regular season, more meaningful games deeper into the regular season. You had a few kind of winner go home type games towards the end of the regular season that wouldn't have been so otherwise in the old format. We love the first round games on campus. I think that was a home run.
They look great. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of misplaced energy around, the competition on the field for some of those games. By the way, we were a part of that dialogue. So I'm just saying a lot of people talked about lopsided games. The way I look at it is, there's lopsided games in sports all over the place all the time. And I wouldn't focus as much on that. By the way, the NCAA tournament is the same. And I think people celebrate the NCAA tournament regardless. And I think this has a little bit more of that feel, even if some of the first round games on home sites, on campuses, might, like first round games in the basketball tournament, might be one sided. But we love that element. The quarterfinals playing out over New Year's feels right to me. We got to figure out the semifinals and if those are the right windows or not. And the championship game, we'll see. It's a national holiday in that it's Martin Luther King Day. It's also inauguration day for the new president. And it's the biggest sporting event and the biggest audience we'll have on ESPN all year long. So that'll be an interesting day. One last thing on the first round games too is I think we'd like to see a conversation about trying to navigate around both from an NFL perspective and our perspective, the overlap of games on that Saturday. We think it shows great promise competitively, which is not our responsibility. I think we feel like many others that the commissioner should look at how the seeding works and how the conference championship element works going forward. But I know they'll do that because they want it to be as good as possible. So, 2 thumbs up, if you will, from us, despite the fact that, you could pull the semifinals in isolation and wonder about, the comparative audience size.
Burke, this year there were fewer ABC simulcasts for Monday Night Football. Numbers were down about 14% for the package. Can we expect a high number of simulcasts next year in 2025, or what kind of number can we look at?
That's an off-season conversation with the NFL again. 2 years ago was obviously, a result of the writer's strike, which was a unique circumstance. That's going to be, I'm sure, an off-season conversation with the NFL relative to, what we're looking to get from that dynamic and what they're looking to get from that dynamic. We did course correct a little bit in the midst of this season. That just speaks to the fact that I don't believe that we've collectively dialed in on what is the right circumstance over the course of the season. So don't have a specific answer for you at this point, but I know that'll be on the agenda, as we talk about and plan for next season.
Burke, it's coming up on 2 years in this new role that you have, essentially serving as a right hand to Jimmy Pitaro. How do you like this new role, working more maybe with talent and outside agents versus maybe sitting with property partners as you hammer out rights deals?
Listen, we're one team here, so I'm having a great time in this new role. It's helped me grow as an executive. It's helped me learn things and be involved in things that I hadn't been previously in my old role. The relationships we have with leagues and properties, college conferences, etc. It takes a village at our place. So, we're all contributing to try and make those relationships as good as possible. I did the rights deals for a long time and I really love that, but I really love what I'm doing now. It's completely different. A team the size of the one I have now, it's about 4,000 people all in. That's certainly different for me.
That's it? Just 4,000?
Yeah, just, no big deal. Trying to make sure that everything we do, and you've seen us, go in a very specific direction relative to, our talent hires, bringing in people like Jason Kelsey and Pat McAfee and, Belichick and Saban and others. We're trying to make sure that our content appeals to a contemporary sports audience. You may have heard me say this before, but I draw a lot from my young, early 20-year-old children who serve as my personal focus group in terms of what's relevant to younger sports fans. It's, while a different role, it's completely exciting for me. And like I said, Jimmy fosters a team environment over here. We all contribute to the vision, that he's charting and the course he's charting for ESPN. And we're extremely bullish on the future, despite the fact that it is turbulent and transformative as we sit here today.
I'm definitely starting to understand your focus group as my 12-year-old delivers me more sports news than I can possibly, take in a given day.
Yeah.
Well, your 12-year-old's probably on TikTok more than you are, Austin.
If he's on TikTok, we're going to be having a conversation.
Your 12-year-old could be a consultant for Katie Daly, I think, and social team.
Probably.
Burke, part of that 4,000 person team, which also I manage myself and I don't do a great job of that. So congrats to you. You promoted longtime ESPN exec Mike McQuaid to EVP Sports and Production in August. How's he been settling into that role?
Mike's been beyond my expectations, honestly. Like he is an incredibly talented executive. He is a great manager of people. And probably most importantly, he's got a really incredible vision for what ESPN content should be and should look like. And he has already elevated, in my opinion, our delivery from a quality perspective. I mean this in the best possible way. And I think of myself this way, too. He's a grinder. He works incredibly hard. He's dedicated to not just, our premium properties and premium productions, but everything across the board. He's tireless. And there's a new energy here, particularly around our live events, that I'm really excited about. So he's been great. I think he was a very underappreciated asset at ESPN for a lot of years. And now he's got, a huge runway and a huge profile, and he's really delivering.
All right, Burke, a couple quick hitters to wrap things up. Stephen A. Smith, how close are the two sides on locking down a deal for him to remain at ESPN?
We're getting there. I mean, Stephen A. is so important to us, and he is such a special talent. I've, again, used opportunities like this to praise him in the past, and I'll do it again. He's a franchise for us. First Take is a franchise. It's his show. He's the executive producer of it. He has created and brought that show from what it was to what it is today. And that is really, really important to us. I'm very optimistic. We're not quite there yet. He's said that recently, and that's not incorrect, but we're getting there. And I'm very hopeful and very optimistic that we'll get that done.
Do you still have an ESPN phone relic lying around your office or home?
Hold on.
There it is.
In the box.
Incredible.
In the box. I love it.
It's been used, but it's back in the box. So yeah, I do have one.
Vintage.
Yeah. I was a big phone user back in the day. I mean, it may have just been me, but yeah, I thought it was a really good product. And the silver lining story of that whole experience is that because of that experience, we leapt really fast and far ahead of our competition in digital and mobile content. And I think it still is paying benefits to this day, even though it was a questionable decision at the time to get into the phone hardware business, to say the least.
All right, Burke, for someone who hasn't heard of Pat McAfee, what do you tell him he does within the sports landscape?
What do I tell him he does?
Yeah. How would you describe it?
He is a very unique Swiss Army knife talent. And the greatest compliment I could pay anybody in this business, I will pay to him, which is he did all of this on his own, all of it. Like, we don't touch his show. He does everything. He created it without us. We put it on our platform, and I think the relationship is really solid because of that. We give him the amplification of the ESPN brand and platform, but everything he's created and his team have created and continue to create is done on his own. And he did it without a net, right? He didn't do it with a big media company. He did it on his own. And now we're proud to be his partner and put it on our platform. And, and we've created opportunities, I think, for him, like College Game Day, where he's been able to flex a totally different muscle of his, which is to be part of that ensemble cast inside of an ESPN franchise. And he's absolutely crushing that as well. I mean, the field goal kicking contest has become a new must see,
every
moment
Saturday morning. Yep.
Every Saturday morning. And so the guy is a special talent. He's really, really versatile. We're thrilled to have him be part of it, but he did it. We didn't do it.
All right, Burke, we'll get you out of here on this. It's been well documented in the pages of SBJ throughout the years that you're a deadhead. What did you make of the Dead & Co. show at the Sphere? How long can they continue to play, and are you planning to hit up any Sphere shows in the spring?
Yes to all of that. It was incredible. The Sphere, I kind of went in with a little cynicism being in this business. Like, I didn't see any of the U2 shows. I probably should have, but I didn't. And so I went in sight unseen, other than the stuff you saw on social and Instagram and that kind of stuff. But I went in cynical, saying like, this experience cannot possibly be as good as everybody is saying it is. And it was. It really was. So I saw him 6 times in the Sphere on the first run, and I'm definitely going back. And I think it's perfect for a band like that, who can set up a quasi residency and avoid all of the hassles of travel and touring, and basically bring the fans to them. And not every city or every building could do that, but the combination of that building in Las Vegas for an extended run where fans can sort of fit it into their regular lives, I think is special, not just for Dead & Co., but for a lot of bands.
Only 6 shows in that first run. That's impressive.
6 out of 30, not bad. 20%.
Well, we can't wait to hear you come back and talk about the spring run of shows. So
we'll do.
ESPN's president of content, Burke Magnus, appreciate you coming on the pod this week.
Thanks, Austin. Thanks, Molly.